I am Nerith. I find stories that hide from light. They say Wall Street is a fortress, a labyrinth of numbers, built on power, guarded by the richest men alive. But once, not long ago, a teenager cracked it, not with money, not with privilege, but with nothing more than a computer, a restless mind, and a hunger to prove the world wrong. This is the story of the boy who outsmarted Wall Street and the price he paid for it. To understand him, you have to understand the world he was stepping into. Wall Street is more than a place. It's an ecosystem of greed and fear, a casino where fortunes vanish in seconds, where algorithms run faster than the human brain, and secrecy is the currency of survival. For most people, it's untouchable, but for a 17-year-old kid, it was a challenge. He wasn't from New York. He wasn't raised in wealth. In fact, he grew up in a small town, in a room stacked with old computer parts and secondhand textbooks. While other kids were out chasing high school glory, he was chasing something different. Late nights staring into glowing screens, exploring obscure corners of the internet, asking questions nobody else around him cared about. To his parents, it looked like obsession. To him, it felt like destiny. One evening, while buried in online forums, he stumbled across a discussion about stock trading software, tools that giant firms use to predict the market, coded by some of the brightest minds on Earth. And that's when a thought struck him. What if he could build something better? It sounds impossible, but for him, impossibility was just an invitation. He spent weeks pulling data, testing theories, writing lines of code that crashed more often than they worked. He learned about arbitrage, the art of spotting tiny differences in prices across markets and exploiting them before anyone else noticed. And then, one night, it clicked. His program ran smoothly for the first time. The numbers lit up the screen. It wasn't just working, it was winning. In his small bedroom, with nothing but an old computer and a cheap internet connection, he had built something Wall Street firms were paying millions for. At first it was small, a few dollars here and there. Then it became hundreds, then thousands. By the time he turned 18, his program was pulling in more money in a day than his parents made in a month. He didn't tell them, not at first. How could he explain it? That the boy they worried about, the boy glued to a flickering screen, had just cracked the code of the global markets. But Wall Street doesn't like being outsmarted, and soon they noticed. Trades were moving faster than they should. Profits were appearing where no one expected them. Behind the curtain of the financial system, alarms were going off. And somewhere, in a skyscraper overlooking Manhattan, a question was asked: who is doing this? The boy thought he was invisible, but he wasn't. Every click, every trade, left a footprint, and Wall Street has eyes everywhere. When regulators knocked on his door, he wasn't surprised. He was terrified, but not surprised. They wanted to know everything, how he did it, who was helping him. But the truth was simple. It was just him, alone, a teenager with a laptop, facing down the most powerful financial system in the world. They didn't see a genius. They saw a threat. They called it unauthorized trading. They called it market manipulation, but what they couldn't admit was this: a kid from nowhere had built something Wall Street couldn't, and they couldn't let him win. The weight of lawsuits, fines, and endless investigations crashed down on him. Overnight, the money vanished. So did the freedom he once felt staring at that glowing screen. What happened to him isn't unique. History is filled with young minds who dared to outthink the system, only to be crushed by it. Because Wall Street doesn't reward brilliance, it protects power. And maybe that's the real tragedy, that somewhere, a teenager proved it could all be different, and instead of celebrating him, the system erased him. But here's the part they couldn't erase. The code he wrote, pieces of it still circulate online, whispered about in forums, dissected by amateur traders. His ideas didn't die, they escaped, and in some way, he's still out there, in every independent coder trying to beat the system, in every young person who refuses to accept the world as it is. The boy who outsmarted Wall Street never became a billionaire. He never made the front page of Forbes, but he left behind something more powerful than money, a story, a warning that even the strongest fortress can be cracked, that brilliance can come from anywhere, and that sometimes the system doesn't fear failure. It fears the possibility of being exposed by a kid in a bedroom with nothing but a dream. This was his story, and maybe it's only the beginning. I hope you enjoyed that story. It's time for me to go hunt the next one hiding in the shadows. Before I vanish, make sure you turn on the bell so you'll know when I return with another story. And tell me what you think in the comments below. I always read them, even from the dark.